Choosing America's morning headquarters to get you through the mid-morning hours.
Yeah, the Weather Channel is helping you plan for the big events ahead. We've got lots to talk about, of course, with the smoke conditions in not just New York, but in many areas of the Northeast.
It was unbelievable as you watch the landscape here. This is how the skies changed throughout the day on Wednesday, yesterday, a time lapse looking at lower Manhattan, and it was so eerie. I was talking to a friend up there, and she said, well, it's not as bad as it was. And I'm, looking at the view behind her, I'm like, your sky looks yellow. It was just so bad, so thick.
So my daughter's in New York City right now, and she was telling me the changes that you were talking about.
Yeah.
It did turn sort of this orangey, weird Mars-like color. It didn't last all day, but off and on.
Yeah, for a time it certainly was, and it's causing lots of issues, grounding flights, canceling games. Playgrounds empty of kids. The kids are still in school up here, so a lot of field trips canceled, just so many impacts.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more about that. We've got the thick smoke from Canada wildfires causing reporting for us this morning from Weehawken, New Jersey. And on a given day, you would normally see the skyline of New York City behind him, Justin. But what has the visibility and the smoke in the air been like this morning?
Well, right now, the air quality index is...
Yeah, good update. Thank you for that, Justin. Stay safe out there. Part of the reason that the smoke is so thick and long-lasting is because the fires in Canada have consumed more than 7 million acres of land. Yeah,
and on top of a stuck weather pattern, a blocked-up one, we are dealing with an ongoing shift in conditions that appear to be playing a role in the intensity overall of these fires in southern Canada. Meteorologist
Jacqueline Woodall with the Weather Network in Canada joins us now. And Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining us. We want to talk about the fires first. And when they first started last month in the western provinces, what indication did you have there in Canada that this would be a historic start to the wildfire season?
Joining us again, I want to say, but also, we're trying to figure out, like, as you were mentioning, it started off in Western Canada, which is not that unusual, but do you have any sense for sort of meteorologically what led to the transport of some of that fire activity to the eastern provinces of Canada? And a sort of secondary part, an update on those fires in Quebec and areas nearby.
We've been talking a lot, of course, now that the smoke has infiltrated the northeastern U.S. about the haze, the smoke, shutting down in some cases, schools and, kids not going out on field trips. How are Canadians dealing with it, though? Because you're right there in the heart of it.
Have you seen, and how have you seen, I should say, patterns shift in parts of North America to make these fires in Canada more likely?
Well, I can tell you that in that same year where I had that fire...
The blocking patterns do so much in terms of creating these extreme weather events, whether it's extreme drought, extreme rain, extreme fire and smoke behavior. Yesterday, you mentioned the town of Littman, and yesterday they had some of their hottest temperatures, if not the hottest temperature of the year. I saw you sharing that on social media. So what can be done to help? The weather is not helping slow down the fire and the blaze situation up here. What can be done?
Well, I mean, the same thing. And a lot of people across the New York City area, this is new. This is different.
Yes. They're saying the same thing in Philadelphia and today in D.C. as it gets worse. Jacqueline Woodall with the Weather Network in Canada, thank you so much for joining us and great perspective on what's happening. We were just talking about how we don't see this in major metro areas. Even when we had some of the big wildfires in the West, it was usually more mountain communities that were dealing with scenes like this. But it's rare to get this kind of smoke in a major city.
Yeah, and our previous guest, Jacqueline Woodall from the Weather Network, was saying the same thing in Canada. Their perspective is like, we've never seen this before. What is going on? And so, unfortunately, we're dealing with some of the consequences. But there's good news on the way. There's a pattern shift coming that should clear us out pretty good.
There is, and a shift in the pattern could help families in the Northeast smothered by wildfire smoke. And
we've been talking about this because this is not just going to move the fire and the smoke away.
Very hot May that Canada had, which correlates exactly to that big ridge that we had over Canada and over a lot of the U.S. in May.
Right. Let's go back.
Satellite. You can see it on the visible satellite, and we can see it now shifting further south through southeastern Pennsylvania, Maryland, Northern Virginia, including around D.C.
Yeah, now we're starting to see a lot of pictures coming in out of social media of the air quality and the sky conditions around D.C. As you mentioned, in some other areas in the Middle Atlantic. It again, part of it is moving to other populated areas. So what was New York, kind of a hotbed yesterday, it's now shifting a bit farther south.
And so we can track it. The wind direction plays a big role.
Huge role.
And I want to talk about that because it's going to play a big role moving it out too.
Yes.
Which we think will happen as we get through the weekend. Things are going to finally change with the weather pattern. For now, though, we're still stuck in the same situation that we were yesterday with an area of high pressure. It's an upper level low that we have spinning over the northeast, and it's actually moving backwards or retrograding. And its position here heading back into the northeast here has been key and just pulling and keeping more of that wildfire smoke in the area. The low itself is also bringing some rain. You know, we have been talking earlier, I guess it was last week, about the fires in Nova Scotia. We just got 7 inches of rain in Nova Scotia out of this upper level low. We got 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches of rain here in parts of northern New England out of this upper level low. So there is some rain potential, especially where it's been the most persistent. I think the areas from New York State down through Connecticut, Long Island, even northern Jersey, we have some rain chances. It's not as much as we saw up there to the north, simply because we just don't have the instability. We don't have the sticking power of the rain like we've had up there. But there will be some rain, which will be somewhat helpful in clearing out the air a little bit. We're also going to watch, though, with that flow not changing with the low in place, the smoke is still going to be a problem and a challenge. Even if it's not at the hazardous level like we saw yesterday in New York City, it's still going to be at levels that will be impacting your health, especially for those sensitive groups, but even beyond, even the general population, I think, just with what we've been dealing with. Temperatures have been held down, too. Right now, we've got 50s and a few showers hanging out around the Capital District there in New York State. The air quality alerts that are up today include Delaware, Jersey, all of Pennsylvania, all of Indiana, much of lower Michigan, into Ohio, including around Cleveland, and pretty much the whole state of North Carolina as well. I do want to show you quickly how the showers, the rain chances are going to be with us here through this evening. Again, the upper level low not going anywhere. It's not until Saturday that we finally see that low start to move east the way it should go, right, and get out of here. So we do have some rain chances until we get there, and most spots will be on the lighter side. The other spot that has been pretty persistent with their pattern is the Southern Plains.
Yeah, the Southern
Guys,
yeah.
into you.
Yeah, Justin, thank you. I mean, look at the scene behind us. This was the scene yesterday afternoon in New York City.
We didn't paint our wall orange.
No.
That's actually a camera trying to look at the World Trade Center.
Apocalyptic is really the only way. There's been a lot of really good description by the National Weather Service offices dealing with this. The Weather Service in Binghamton just talking about the smell in the air, too, like a cigar.
Yeah.
Like a campfire.
And there was some data that has been coming out. We've been talking about this AQI index, these measurements of how smoky the air is. In New York yesterday, it was by far and away the highest they had ever seen in their record books since they started measuring that. Not by a couple times, many times over.
So hazardous is 300 plus. We were talking 400 plus yesterday. So that's where we were yesterday afternoon. Justin was just talking about where we are right now here in the unhealthy zone. What do you say? 185, I think, was the most recent.
We're in the red area.
We're in the red area, which is still not good, which is still unhealthy for all, not just sensitive groups. So it's still a dangerous situation. Want to make sure everyone is staying safe here, even if it looks better, relatively speaking, than yesterday. It's still not a good situation. Masks can be useful if you have to go out, walk the dog, like Justin showed us.
Yeah, and the AC on recirculate, right? You don't want to keep ingesting that outside air. That can help out a lot. Of course, you want to pay attention to local advisories. And there is some good news on the horizon. It will gradually improve, but it's not going to happen instantly.
Right. Now, there are some delays right now. The low visibility, the reason why here at LaGuardia running about an hour delay on arrivals here. The wind coming from the northeast. So it's not a wind problem. It truly is just the low visibility.
Yes, and on the long term, things are going to improve. That's good news.
Yes, all right. Oh, by the way, to that forecast here, and again, starting in Seaside Park in New Jersey, where we have been dealing with the smoke. You can see the really bad visibility out here at the beach, and we are going to be concerned, of course, for the air quality across this area. Now, let's also look at another concern here. I don't think a lot of beaches will be filled with people today, but we do have some areas of current risk to warn you about here in the northeastern coast here, especially there in parts of northern Jersey. Looking at your forecast today, it is going to be cloudy. It is going to be murky, really, with that smoke still a factor in the sky. 73 degrees in New York City. And it's possible there's a few showers here. It might not be the most likely scenario, but there is that chance. Let's go up the coast here with that forecast, and we take you into Long Beach, 67. This upper level low that we have over the area has really kept temperatures down as well. We're going to be looking at Chatham, Massachusetts, only in the mid 60s here, where we're looking at maybe the sun peeking out a little bit, but overall there's there's a lot of clouds, and of course the smoke is a big part of the sky cover as well. Jumping over to Lake Michigan, we have a moderate risk of rip currents here along a lot of the shores of Lake Michigan. There's a few spots actually a high risk. Today we do have sunshine, although I do think it's possible smoke could be a problem here as well. Sleeping Bear Dunes, 71 degrees here for your high temperature today. Time now to talk about the traffic. Continues to be good, except Sunday is when we start to bring in the rain chances. We have Ashley McBride, Luke Bryan, some other artists are playing Sunday, so they should have like their rain song ready, you know? Like what if it rains? What the rain begins when they're on stage. If I were an artist, I would have a rain song ready.
A couple of the concerts that I remember seeing John Fogerty and it's rain, or have you ever seen the rain?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. And more. Thank you for choosing America's Morning Headquarters to get you through the mid-morning hours.
Yeah, the Weather Channel is helping you plan for the big events ahead. And the big event, I think, is, tracking the smoke, which, look at yesterday in New York City. You couldn't see anything.
It's so unreal. When you see how it changes, too. I mean, every single image in itself is concerning, but then you see just how bad it gets and the sky takes on an eerie glow.
And those colors are real. They're not manufactured. Yeah. I know my daughter's in New York City right now is telling me how orange and weird and otherworldly the sky looked. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. This is, of course, a very visual part of it, but people across New York State dealt with it yesterday. Air so thick they just could not breathe outside. Air that smelled like a campfire. If you went outside, it got in your clothes, it got in your hair, and you could still smell it when you went inside.
It was amazing. It was almost like masks were really essential to being able to move around in the outdoors.
And there's been a lot of challenges. There were flight delays. There was games that were canceled at Major League Baseball games here, but a lot of kids' activities, too, rightfully so, had to be canceled. And that's a story that we'll continue to follow today because now that thickest plume of smoke is kind of moving a little bit.
Yeah, and if it's, getting involved in the economy in other ways as well, the flights being canceled, the airports shutting down temporarily, we'll be watching that.
Well, the thick smoke from Canada wildfires, he was there yesterday when the scene looked like that, where you could see nothing. The visibility has improved slightly, Justin, but I'm really worried that people might think that the air has gotten better. It's still pretty bad out there. Yeah, Justin, thank you. That was fantastic information to share. And, I want to show you who else is going to be dealing with levels of poor air quality at AQI up that high today as we talk about numerous areas that are going to be dealing with this severe air quality. Yesterday, Brooklyn, 413. Right now, 170. As you just heard, that's still a dangerous level. It's not the only spot, of course, that we are watching. And with the smoke from these wildfires, which has now burned nearly 10 million acres here, well above average and certainly well above where we should be at this point in the season. It's that smoke from the Quebec fires, which is especially problematic for us right here across the Northeast and the Midwest and the parts of the Southeast where the air quality alerts are up for today. The weather pattern that has been stuck in place because of a blocking pattern, the Omega block that we've had, has kept this area of low pressure and upper level low stuck here in the Northeast and actually allowed it to retrograde or move backwards a little bit here. That flow of air around it, remember we have a clockwise flow around a high, that's been helping to steer the smoke into the lower 48. But at the same time, with the blocking ridge that we have here over the northern plains and it extends up into Canada, that flow around it clockwise also helping to steer the smoke in as well. So the two working in tandem in a very bad way. We're expecting to get up to the hazardous levels here today in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. Very unhealthy in the Poconos and in Scranton. Expecting really Harrisburg in that zone as well. That's where the thickest of the smoke is going to be traveling today. We can track that. You'll see places like Erie, perhaps just east of Pittsburgh, Punxsutawney, dealing with some of that really thick smoke out there, the kind you can smell, the kind that is truly affecting your ability to breathe healthfully. Let's talk about the fires first. And when they first started last month in the western provinces, what indication did you have there in Canada that this would be a historic start to the wildfire season? So what can be done to help? The weather is not helping slow down the fire and the blaze situation up here. What can be done?
Well, I mean,
do you have any sense for sort of meteorologically what led to the transport of some of that fire activity to the eastern provinces of Canada? And a sort of secondary part, an update on those fires in Quebec and areas nearby.
That was such a good interview, Justin, here, and it really, I think, points out just how unsafe it still is, even though it's that much better than yesterday. But we want to make sure people stay safe out there. And, a shift in the pattern could help families in the Northeast smothered by wildfire smoke and change plans. Yesterday, we started talking about the pattern that set up early in the year that led to an active early start to the year for severe weather and then kind of shut it down quite a bit into May, which is untypical.
It is, and it's also related to the stagnant and the air quality issues that we've got in the Northeast now. The pattern
Very interesting.
that has locked in as the unhealthy air quality in the Northeast is associated with the reduction of the tornado patterns that we've seen.
For heat wave. About Flag Day-ish is when things start to change. Well, time now for your yes. So we're talking a lot about the pattern that has locked in this smoke into the Northeast, but also some showers. Saw some big rain coming in parts of southern New Hampshire yesterday, more than an inch.
Yeah, there were some scattered showers, and this is part of this sort of circulation, this low pressure area that is not far from New England and is actually even getting closer. That will bring from some welcome relief, I think, to many. It will help scour out some of the smoke and bring some of the rain, as you mentioned.
It might be short term, but at least it's something. I want to take a look at that pattern, though, and how it changes getting into the weekend. We will see finally some changes. In the short term, though, it's not getting better. It might be getting worse in terms of this low pressure. It's been bringing all the problems. We're in a blocked pattern, and this low is blocked from going anywhere. So it's been stuck here, and if anything, it's kind of retrograding or moving westbound. And it is the reason why it's been cloudy, it's been cool. The circulation around it has been helping to bring that smoke down across the skies here in the Northeast. But we have seen the rain. And, up in Nova Scotia, where we were talking about wildfires just a week ago here burning out of control, they had 7 inches of rain stuck underneath this upper level low, just with a very persistent day after day shower regime that you've been in. We'll see some of that again today here through the Northeast. Possibilities of it continue tomorrow. Temperatures continue to be running below average, a lot of 60s for high temperatures across the area. And that persistent flow around that low coming in, again, bringing the air like this will keep that flow of smoky air coming into the lower 48 for keeping most folks at unhealthy levels of smoke and poor air quality. Now, we've got to watch the plume of smoke. For the worst case scenario, you get up to that very unhealthy or even hazardous level. But overall, I think we do have a lot of issues out there breathing-wise. Now, rainfall-wise, there are some scattered showers out there across New York State. Very few and far between, but they're a possibility. The air quality alerts are up there, too, though, including the Capital District and again in Watertown and Rochester and Syracuse and Binghamton, where you guys were dealing with it yesterday. Indiana, Michigan, those large areas dealing with the smoke in the sky, and you're feeling it in your lungs as well as you go outside. And plus, watching these showers as they come in, chances continue into tomorrow. We got to wait for this low to move east, and that doesn't happen until we get through the weekend. Greg, let's go south, because as bad as yesterday's, because yesterday was so exceptional like this. But Justin, we're going to show everyone the levels so that you know where we stand in terms of air quality.
It is unbelievable. I mean, the numbers that are coming in, these AQI indices, the air quality index, well, off the charts, higher than they ever been, not by 1 or 2 times, but by a lot, meaning the air quality was at unprecedented levels of danger. Yesterday,
we were above 400. I mean, that's beyond the hazardous threshold, right? We're in the 185 range right now, which puts us in healthy. And Justin talked to an atmospheric scientist earlier that shared, 0 to 50. 15 would be a good level for, air. Summertime, a lot in the afternoon, you get up above this 50 to maybe 100, but this is bad air.
It's unbelievable. And there are some good signs that it is going to be scoured out eventually. We're going to, over the course of today and over the next few days, things will improve. But until then, here's some of those tips. Stay indoors if possible. Use a mask if you go outside. Why not?
Yeah, all those N95s or maybe KN95s masks that you have here, it's better than not having one here. So definitely would take advantage of that if you have it and use it if you have to go outside. Let's look at some of the other impacts, too. There were delays yesterday. Some flights canceled. There are delays right now because of low visibility. LaGuardia and Newark also running some delays.
Now, Jen, real quick, just a question. See this hazy stuff? Are those clouds or is that smoke? I'm not really sure. I haven't looked closely.
Well, I think the thickest of the smoke is kind of digging down around into Pennsylvania, but it's all mixed in. At this point, the air is just recirculating around this upper level low.
Right. Well, the good news is many areas don't have the flight delays, but some do. Check before you go to the airport.
Now, sports. A lot of impacts to sports. We've got the PGA Tour, which is supposed to begin here. Toronto hosting. The rainfall could be an issue, but the smoke. And earlier we talked to Jacqueline Woodall from the Weather Network in Canada, and she said she's never seen the scenes like this with the poor air quality and the low visibility in Toronto, which is what they are dealing with.
Indeed. Well, the summer season with its hot and dry conditions brings with it
Right now in Siesta Key. Take you out to another spot, though. This is Seaside Park in New Jersey. Not looking quite as nice. The sky certainly obscured by the smoke here, like we've been seeing in all of the cities here across the north and east. And that air quality that we are dealing with affecting us here, even to the beaches. And you can see really not a soul in sight here, rightfully so here. Not a day to be outside. Want to take you out to the forecast, though, for the beaches along the northeast here. And one concern we have, in addition to, of course, the smoke in the air, is that we've got a moderate rip current risk in a few spots like northern Jersey, parts of Long Island. It's low elsewhere, but it's not zero. Here's a look at the air forecast today, 73 degrees in Atlantic City. We may see some spotty showers. It's possible. The farther north you go, the better chance you are, but they will be few and far between. Long Beach should be dry. Temps are going to be in the mid-60s, but of course, that air quality keeping you off the beach. You're not getting that walk in. You're not taking the dog out for the long walk on the beach here today. Chatham, even we've been dealing with some of that poor air quality as well. It's a little better up here, but right now we've got temps that'll be only topping out in the mid-60s. The upper level low keeping it cool with below average temperatures. Going over to the Great Lakes, we have a moderate rip current risk around much of Lake Michigan. One small area that does have a high risk. Air temperatures here are also on the cooler side, running below average. That north wind may bring some smoke there to obscure the visibility in the sky. What about the tropics, Greg? Anything to watch? Whiskey Jam today, or the shows at Old Red, Blake Shelton's Bar, Old Dominion, Sam Hunt, Mickey Guyton, Brothers Osborne's going to be at Sky Deck. That's an outdoor venue. So is Nissan Stadium. So, Greg, we saw what happened at Nissan Stadium with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, thunderstorms came in, right? And delayed it for several hours.
Yeah, the only day that we get into thunderstorm chances is Sunday.
Yeah. But you know what? This is your safe spot. This is your home place. Country music.
And we're going to dig into that question. Thank you so much for choosing America's Morning Headquarters to get you through the mid-morning hours.
And the Weather Channel is helping you plan for the big events ahead. And one of the big stories clearly is the smoke in parts of the Northeast. Thankfully, in New York City, it's beginning to improve, but compared to what it was yesterday, these are off the charts numbers, incredibly unhealthy.
And just apocalyptic scenes as you look out behind us.
Right.
That's the sky. This is a time lapse of yesterday afternoon. And it was bad to begin with, and it just got off the charts worse by the end of the day.
Yeah, the statistics of how they measure this in terms of what's called AQI, Air Quality Index, was higher than ever measured before, and the higher, the worse, not just by a little. By a lot.
Yeah, the highest ever measured in New York City since they've started measuring the air quality here. Now, of course, this caused a lot of issues. As you can imagine, there were flights that were grounded, cancellations. We had a lot of games that were canceled, kids' ball games, but also Major League Baseball was postponed from yesterday. The Yankees and also the Phillies postponed till today. We will see if they are able to hold those games.
You know, it's unbelievable that we're seeing fires we saw early in the season in Western Canada create a lot of smoky conditions in the north central. They've moved to Quebec, now created a lot of smoky conditions for the Northeast. Question is, are we going to see more of that later on this summer? Maybe.
Yeah, that is another big question. Well, you know, the thick smoke from the Canadian wildfires is Weehawken in New Jersey right now. And, you know, Justin, we mentioned that the governor is going to make those N95 masks available. Have you heard anything about that being there locally? On, you know,
100s, near 200, and other places are just as bad or worse. We've got a long way to go for the air to be filtered and make it breathable again for us to be safe. Jen, into you.
Yeah, no, very good point here. I don't want folks to look outside and think it's better. It's not. The air quality is still bad. Justin, thank you. Let's look at the air quality where we are right now compared to yesterday, because the appearance of the sky has a much different look, right? It was 413 yesterday. The AQI when you get to hazardous is 300 plus. So we were the plus side of all of that. Right now, it's 170 as reported at Brooklyn. Again, in the unhealthy range here, that red zone when it comes to the pollution levels in the atmosphere. The fires burning across Canada has been the source of this, and especially the ones right now in Quebec and some in Ontario, but really the Quebec ones, that's the smoke that's getting into the Northeast at the moment. Last week, it was from Nova Scotia. We were getting some of the smoke from those wildfires in, but the airflow that we've had over the past 5 days has really allowed that southeastern air from Canada get into the U.S. It's been infiltrating all the way down here to North Carolina, South Carolina. Air quality alerts are up today. You'll notice a hazy look to the sky. Even outside of that, though, it just might not be down to levels that it will affect your breathing, which is why an air quality alert wouldn't have been issued. Now, this low pressure is the main reason why that we've been seeing the flow of smoky air come in. Air goes like that, counterclockwise around the low pressure. The fact that we've had a block pattern and there's a big ridge that extends out over the middle of the country, well, think about how air moves around a high pressure. So the two are working in tandem to keep the airflow just like this here. We haven't really seen anything different over the past 5 days now, and it's going to remain that way because we're in a block pattern. Things are not moving here today and even into tomorrow. We're still going to see this block pattern in place. Through the afternoon, we can track where is the thickest of smoke. We can watch it on the visible satellite. We can watch it in the modeling as well. We think southeastern Pennsylvania, parts of northern Virginia through this evening will be right in that. Keeping an eye on northwestern Pennsylvania as well for that, getting up to those hazardous levels, the kind of air where you really need to stay outside. Try to keep yourself healthy, and we'll be watching at least signs of it in the sky all the way down through the south. Talk about the fires first. And when they first started last month in the western provinces, what indication did you have there in Canada that this would be a historic start to the wildfire season? So what can be done to help? The weather is not helping slow down the fire and the blaze situation up here. What can be done?
Well, I mean,
do you have any sense for sort of meteorologically what led to the transport of some of that fire activity to the eastern provinces of Canada? And a sort of secondary part, an update on those fires in Quebec and areas nearby.
Talking a lot about the pattern this week and how stuck it has been, the blocking pattern that's been going on, and linking it back to the severe weather and tornado scene that we had going back to the early start of the year to May and now.
Yeah, I mean, if we remember
in January and February to have so many tornadoes, but we got to May and that's when you expect the peak of the tornado reports to be. And not that we didn't have any, but we had a lot less than usual. So it begs the question, it's what was happening in the atmosphere.
What was happening? And let's go back just to remind everybody.
Of kind of showing that June 4th Flag Day is going to be that pivot day where we get into full-blown summer at that point across the middle and eastern part of the country.
It's about time. I mean, I kind of feel like it, we were kind of due a heat wave. It's been relatively.
All right, we want to talk about what's changing. And today it doesn't look as bad in New York City, but it looks worse in other spots like Philadelphia and D.C. It's all about where's that plume of worst air. That said, this is live. This is still not good.
No, it's really difficult conditions still in New York. And the levels of air quality are at the dangerous category still.
Yes.
And it is remarkable how off the charts we were in the air quality index yesterday.
Yeah, I'm going to show some of those levels, talk about the northeast forecast. The upper level low is the reason why this air keeps getting pulled in and why things haven't cleared out. We just haven't been able to change the weather pattern. We haven't been able to change the wind direction. Everything has been like this all week long. So this very persistent upper level low stuck because we're in a blocking pattern, an omega block, and the flow around the low is bringing the air in from southeastern Canada right here into the northeast, parts of the Great Lakes as well, from dealing with it. And that's going to be the case again today. Now, the upper level low does other things, too. Keeps it cooler, keeps the clouds around, keeps it kind of showery. And the low itself was more over Nova Scotia, parts of Maine, where we've had some rain. Some of it has been heavy at times. Saw some 7-inch rain totals there over Nova Scotia. The low has been retrograding a little bit and moving back towards here, maybe northern New England. It's going to keep those showers around and maybe give us more of a chance of getting into some showers across New York State today into southern New England. Perhaps New York City, it's possible. Our temperatures are going to stay below average. The clouds stick around, but that smoke also does as well. So when it comes to who gets the worst of the smoke, we can follow it on the visible satellite. We can follow it in the modeling and following those smoke plumes and just watching the wind direction and the wind flow. We can see where the smoke is thickest and then watch where it's moving as well. Now, the rain showers, they're out there. They're few and far between, but we do have a couple. Albany now reporting some rain there at the airport. Burlington, we're reporting some rain. Temperatures are on the cool side, all because of this trough and upper level low that is stuck over the northeast. Air quality alerts are up here, a lot of New York State, including again from Buffalo to Rochester to Binghamton. And here today, that's one concern. The showers come in. It could be helpful for sure with the air quality concerns, at least make it temporarily better. But not until we get this low out out of here? Will we see all of this improve? The warmer temperatures, Greg, don't come our way, and the improved air quality doesn't come our way until this, being outside, doing anything, you have to exert yourself and breathe.